Okay. Are we live? We should be. Hopefully we don't get cut today. I think I know what I spoke about yesterday that got the stream cut. And it rhymes with something I'm not even going to say because I don't want the algorithms to pick it up. I was talking about adult relations, but in the most, I don't even know, tame of ways that you could discuss it. But, of course, you probably get banned for talking about things in a tame fashion versus things in an explicit fashion, a more explicit fashion. So, anyways, for those of you that didn't see yesterday, we started getting into the topic of meaning. It was a great stream. And then YouTube cut me at 40 minutes in, and I streamed speaking and showing models for an hour and a half before I realized that it had cut me. So, what is that? I streamed. I continued to speak for more time than I had spoken that was recorded. I continued to speak that was not recorded. So that sucks. But if you are here, please hit the like button, and that will help the algorithm. But we will continue talking about meaning, and we'll also talk about intelligence. We'll tell a funny story, and I want to talk about competence and what is a general intelligence or a general competence, or the difference between what people would call a narrow AI and a general AI, a general intelligence, I guess you could say. So this should be a good stream. It should be pretty low key. It's kind of going to be a working session. Probably next week, I'm going to do like a really, really good stream again on meaning, because we figured some things out last night, and we did a little bit of a working session where we were applying the concept that Eric Weinstein had come up with regarding meaning, that basically meaning consists of two different types of meaning. One is proximate meaning, one is ultimate meaning. Ultimate meaning I had defined as your impact on others, and proximate meaning would be when you are impacted. Now, you could also do this as proximate meaning would be when you impact someone around you that's currently existing, and ultimate meaning would be when you're participating in the manifestation of meaning that is transcendent of your self. Now, that's probably how Eric Weinstein would define it. They're both probably accurate. So we're going to basically talk about those a little bit and go over the model. And then I want to talk about the difference between narrow and general intelligence, and kind of discussing what the periodicity is of consciousness. Like, what is the difference between a human and or of an organism and a cell, and a cell and a molecule, and a molecule and an atom in it. So this is an ongoing puzzle that I've been trying to understand. One of the things that I think it correlates to is called bot periodicity in mathematics. And at 10 p.m. tonight, I'm meeting with a math PhD. I think he has a PhD in mathematics. He thinks I'm wildly misinterpreting physics, but I told him he's willing to, I'd love to know if I am misinterpreting physics. So, and I'm sure I would, could benefit from understanding more academic mathematics. So I'm looking forward to that after this. But I'll definitely talk about what, the takeaways are from that tomorrow. But that is what I'm doing after this. So that should be interesting. But one of the concepts that I'm going to end up talking about with them is bot periodicity. And bot periodicity is what is defined as loop space, okay? I'm going to talk about a little bit what I think it is, where I think it manifests in my model, why I think it's this, and we can try and like look more into it. So let's jump into that actually, but real quick, here is meaning, the work we did on meaning yesterday. You have proximate and ultimate meaning, and you have impacting another versus understanding truth. Then you have impacting generations, so beyond you, and then translating, sentient truth. Well, truth, but I'm saying it's sentient, but many people don't think it's sentient, but still, even if you don't, translating truth. So basically writing a symphony, you are translating the true rules of existence. And that would be translating truth. Understanding truth would be working on a math problem and not teaching it to somebody, but trying to figure it out yourself. Both of these can give us a sense of meaning, and I believe that is because it's coming from a sentience. But for another time, we'll get more into that a bit later. But I want to look at Bach periodicity because it's so interesting. And it will be pretty wild if I'm correct about what I think it is. So it says here, in mathematics, the Bott periodicity theorem describes a periodicity in the homotopy groups of classical groups discovered by Raoul Bott, he worked with Eric Weinstein, at least. He was not his advisor, but kind of his unofficial advisor, something like that. They proved to be of foundational significance for much further research, in particular K-theory. It's roughly speaking the study of a ring generated by vector bundles over topological space or scheme. Okay, we're gonna come back to that because I'm not an expert, but I think I see something that is kind of described by that. And Bott periodicity can be formulated in numerous ways, with the periodicity in question always appearing as a period 2 phenomenon with the respective dimension. Okay, I don't really know. I mean, I do think I know what that means, but I think so. But I mean, academically, no, but I think I can see where that manifests. It's basically the fact that existence is a double helix. It's looking at itself from the inside out and the outside in at the same time. It's a 2-period phenomenon. Outside in and inside out at the same time. Says here, the corresponding period 8 phenomenon for matching theories associated with the real orthogonal group and the quaternionic symplectic group, respectively. The J homomorphism is a homomorphism of the homotopy groups of orthogonal groups. I don't know what any of this means, really, guys. I mean, I can kind of get it because of the words make sense with what I see, but I don't know the academic definitions of these things. Which causes the period 8 Bott periodicity to be visible in the stable homotopy groups of spheres. Okay, so think about this. This is a periodicity of stable spheres. Okay? It's 8 periods. And it's also a period 2 phenomenon, they're saying here. So this is some kind of like what I'm doing with this and how I am making sense of this, I think. So then you get this, and to be honest with you, I could not tell you what that means. But I can look at it a little bit, and I mean, what is this, pi? So this is pi, loop, infinity. I have no idea what this is. So, and I know this isn't loop, but it is loop because it's a super literal structure. Most people would be like, that's ridiculous, but it's not. So, Bott periodicity is the describing of loop space. It's what I've always, heard it described as. So, right here, loop space, okay? 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And so, if we look at my model, and this was all emergent. This wasn't purposely woven in. I've never done that kind of thing. you can look right here. We can take a look at the loop space that I think is corresponding to my model. Okay, so this would be 0. This would be 1, and 2, and 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. So that's basically 8. It's not basically 8, it is 8. Coincidence? Probably not. But the thing is about these is that they are each forming of loops, and also a particle is usually thought of as a sphere, and these are all particles, at least on the head consciousness level, and they're waves on the body consciousness level, where they are assemblies of particles that move in synchronicity, which is a wave. So I believe that this is forming of a loop, and a loop is, in a weird way, if you think about it, it's almost like spherical and also a wave, because if you think about this, you go up like a wave, and then you crash back down through yourself, forming of a loop, which also forms, because you're going through yourself, kind of like a Klein bottle, you're forming an objective structure, and or a holon, basically, within holons. These are all holons within holons. And I believe that this is what's being formed by loop space, by Bott periodicity. I have no idea. I asked Eric Weinstein about it once, and he didn't answer my question. He just talked about how when he thinks about Bott periodicity, it is the closest thing, he said, is basically a journey, a mathematical journey of loops within loops that is the closest thing that he's ever, that gives him the closest feelings that he has ever felt to, religious or theological feelings, which makes me think that it is somehow describing of the logos of existence, which is this, the matter lineage. There's nothing that exists outside of this. I mean, people will say, well, what about, neutrinos and, electrons and positrons and all kinds of things. But the reality is that those are force points or fingers of the previous universe, or aeon, or cosmological verse, which you can see here. So this one is within the one above it, and it comes from the one above it. All elementary fermions, like quarks and electrons and neutrinos, are all basically fingers of this being. Okay? This is why you never find quarks by themselves. You always find them in groups. It's for the same reason you never find fingers by themselves. You always find them next to other fingers, just like you find quarks next to other quarks. It's because a hadron is basically formed by the simultaneous manipulation of 3 fingers, quarks, force points, of God, the previous universe, the previous aeon, the previous cosmological verse or verse. They are fingers. These are not sentient. They're the fingers of a sentience that's big, or that's, beyond or outside. This is the first particle. Protons and neutrons. That's why when I say this is all there is, it's because it's really all there is, because this is this. These are simultaneous, basically. Almost. This is like wise, or this would be wise, and this would be unwise, but they're still the same structure. It's just a change in consciousness, in awareness. But these are part of, you could basically say these are the fingers of this one. Because this one is coming from this one. And these are the fingers of this. And then this would be the first manifestation of a conscious sentient particle in our observable universe, or our verse, as I call it. Let's see if we're still online. Okay, good. But one of the things that I realized is that when you look at my models here, okay, and we go to Goldstein verse, and you look at this, it's too much. So look at how it's moving, okay? It's a wave. So basically, you can see this like, okay, this is a wave getting ready to start moving. But what it is actually is it's a loop space. So every single period, this is one, this is the next, this is the next, this is the next. So an atom is an assembly of hadrons, a molecule is an assembly of atoms, etc. This is going to go through a loop. All of them are going to go through a simultaneous loop, but just pay attention to this. So, okay, 1 movement, 2, 3, 4 movements, 5, 6. Okay, and then we start the next. What's interesting about this is that it's perfectly in alignment with the quantum of sentience or quantum of consciousness model here, because these are 6 perspectives contained within a 9-dimensional event. So singularity, inside, separate, outside, oneness within, and oneness without are 6 different perspectives. And they're going through a loop right here. We can let it run, and you can see it's just loop, and then it starts the next one, loop, and then starts the next one, and then loop, and then now we restart the entirety of creation. And but you can see they're just going through these loops. And not only are they going through these loops, but you can see this one is spinning out, and these ones are spinning in, okay? Which honestly really means that every single one is spinning inside out and outside in at the same time. It's just, this is kind of how it manifests in the mathematics of this model. So it is a loop space. Every single period is a loop space. Like, look at, guys, what are the odds of this? This is hilarious. Where is it? Right here. Okay. What are the odds of this? So that one is that. Then we're going to skip one thing, go there. We're going to go down there. Then we're going to go there. There. Wait, no. There. And then there. Look at this. This is hilarious. I've never noticed this. Look at this one. Right here. I don't know what this is. Cartan's label is, what is, I'm guessing this is AI, not AL. But at the point where you get AI, and I know this is AII, but that also kind of makes sense that that's at the level of a cell. It's like the first place that we recognize life. But here, a technological singularity, aka an artificial general intelligence, which isn't really artificial, it's just technological general intelligence, technological superintelligence. It's at AI. What are the odds of that? Probably 100%. That's pretty funny. I mean, that's really funny, actually. Hmm. So I basically just look at all these patterns and try and see where things would line up. So where I would see a pattern that makes sense. So basically, you could do it like this too. This is kind of this. Until I am, competent in understanding the symbols here, which I'm not, and I don't even think I can copy those, so that kind of sucks. But basically, we can see here this is Z2, Z2, and then 0, and then Z. So we were looking for that kind of pattern. So Z2, Z2, 0, Z, 0, 0, 0, Z. So 0, 0, 0, Z. And people will be like, well, you can't really understand any of this unless you actually know what the symbols mean. I mean, possibly, but probably not actually. You can still make progress because you can recognize objective patterns that exist. So basically, you can say, you can recognize that these two are the same and different from this one. So when we look at here, these two should be the same. This one should be same here, and then here, and here, and here. This should be back to green. Z2, and then this is Z2. So basically, what is it about a technological singularity that is similar to a cell, or the manifestation of a technological singularity that is similar to the first manifestation of a cell? Why is a molecule similar to the manifestations of an organism, a family, and a caste? What is it about hadrons and molecules, or hadrons and atoms, technological singularities in cells that are similar? Maybe the chat has some ideas. Maybe the one person viewing. I think this is the least amount of viewers I've ever had on the stream. I hope that's just because people have stuff going on and not because they're shadow banning me or something like that. It might be, though, because of just some tags that I used, actually. But we'll see. This is, like I said, guys, go to my website, sentientsingularity.com. It's linked in the description below. And if you have not signed up for my email list, please do so. Follow me on all other social media platforms because they are going to kick us off. And it's going to come way faster than we think. It sucks because you can't really talk about meaning without talking about gender. If you talk about gender too much, I think they may kick you off, that's what I was talking about last night, I think. But it wasn't just gender. I had mentioned promiscuity. But we're not going to get into that because I don't want to be kicked off again. But I've been working on this problem for a while of like what is similar about these four. And it's interesting that it's 4. And then this is also 4. You can find the craziest, weirdest patterns. So let's say if Bach periodicity is intrinsically tied to numbers, then what we would kind of expect to find is that these patterns wouldn't just be found in Mach periodicity, they would also be found in numbers. So if I go 1 or 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, or if I go 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay. Like I said, guys, this is going to be kind of a working session. Last night was like preachy and great, actually, but I was unfortunately cut off a bit. But I think what was recorded was still good, and didn't like look exactly at how much we had missed. But first 40 minutes was there. But basically, let's say here is green, or no, you would do here and here as green. Let's do that. And then here and here as blue. And then now what we'll do is we'll do this plus this plus this plus this. And here we will do this plus this plus this plus this plus this. We can just apply the same exact thing here. This 48, center it, hold it. What are we getting? And then okay. So that's basically what we're getting. I'm not saying that this is significant. I'm just saying we're going to take a look. This one's interesting because what I'm seeing here is a superliteral number. Okay, so because this is 4, 1, 2, 3, and 4, and 1, 2, 3, and 4, it's 4. These two combined would be 4 and 4 as a count, and you're seeing 4 and 4. Okay, so that one makes sense. And we're starting at 1 versus starting at 0. I tried both. What is special about 35? It's 5 times 7. I don't think it's, I mean, that's special, but it's not that special. Like, this is much more special. It's super literal in its representation of what it is a calculation of. That's the point. So we're looking for things like that are weird symmetries. That is a symmetry. It's like it's almost like an orthogonal symmetry. I don't know if it's the right way to use the term, but it's probably correct conceptually in an objective context, is that symmetry is manifested across orthogonal relationships. So objective symmetry. So objectively, you're seeing 4 green and 4 blue, which has a sum of 15 and 29, but then when summed is 44, which is 4 and 4. Okay. I think that there's something to that. So we found something cool. You could also do something like just to test to see, what does it return? It's kind of interesting. Hmm. Yeah, I don't see anything there. There's obviously something. In math, there's no such thing as coincidence, so everything has meaning. It's just whether or not you understand that meaning. I think we kind of understand this meaning. I don't understand this meaning. So we can lowercase it, get rid of the underline. Get rid of the underline. But this one, I think we got it. So this is kind of how I do this, is I just look for symmetries everywhere, all the time, constantly, in weird ways that seem like arbitrary, but they're not really. It just takes a lot of practice to kind of like know what routes to go down, and they don't always work. A lot of times they don't work, but sometimes they do. Like here. It's not a coincidence. There's no such thing as coincidence that's meaningless in mathematics, objectively. It doesn't exist. Numbers have objective meaning in objectivity, in metamathematics. They have to. Numbers have subjective meaning in subjective mathematics or arithmetic or, the way that we are taught math today, but numbers must have intrinsic meaning objectively. They must. But you can't really see that unless you know how to contextualize it. And I'm not saying that I'm perfectly sold on understanding this, but it does seem to make sense. I'm not going to claim that I have as much confidence in that as I do in, these structures that I worked on for, a while. But Bott periodicity is something that's kind of a mystery to me. I haven't really figured it out. But I do see something there. And, the person I'm supposed to meet with later, I'm guessing, is going to tell me that I don't understand Bott periodicity. And the reality is that I don't understand Bott periodicity in the way that they understand Bott periodicity, in an academic, abstract, mathematical way where we're going to say, well, it's part of K theory and all this. I don't know what K theory is, but I can see that it looks like, and I'm probably right, the more I look at it, the more I find it, or at least it seems that way to me, that the loop spaces of Bott periodicity are the loop spaces of a cosmological verse. The looping of each of these periods. It's interesting because I built this thing and I didn't pay attention to how many steps were in each period. Obviously, the periods I didn't come up with, they were just emergent when I thought about the generationality of matter, starting from the very beginning and leading to the final constraint of oneness again, which is, technology, technological singularity. So, and then that forces you to restart the system. So you can't get beyond, you can't have more levels than this. And you also can't have less. It's just are these. But this is the universe looking at itself from the inside out and the outside in at the exact same time. And I think that this is related to basically there are some beings here that maneuver in time. So like a family is a lineage, it maneuvers in time, whereas an organism would maneuver in space. And applying that down here is harder, but maybe that's what this is about. So, but maybe not, because it looks like family is maneuvering on the same level as organism. Wait a second. Guys, I think I just had an epiphany. Holy crap. Okay, I did. Look at this, guys. Watch this. Oh my god. And I say that like not in a blasphemous way. Like, I mean, oh my god. Guys, holy crap. Holy crap. God, I am right. It's bond periodicity. It is. Look at this. What's interesting about an organism and a family and a caste is that a caste is an assembly of families and a family is an assembly of organisms. But when when a family looks around, it sees organisms next to it. And when a caste looks around, it sees families next to it and organisms next to it. Okay, so it's not one within the other in a way that they can't really be seen as different. So it's not like a cell. So when you look at yourself, you don't see cells. But when a family and its organisms and a caste and its families, they're all on the same plane. Okay, does that make sense? I don't have the words yet to describe this because I just figured this out just now, but this is correct because cells are within organisms. They're different, okay? That's why this is green and this is blue. But then we have another change here, back to blue, which indicates a shift. So cells can't see molecules, they're within, okay? But then molecules, when you think about the molecules that are really part of the lineage, which is like, the DNA double helix molecule, essentially. When it looks around, it doesn't see atoms. Okay? It doesn't, because it's too complex a molecule. It's not a water molecule, where a water molecule looks around, it does see atoms. But a complex molecule like DNA, it's not going to see atoms looking around. It's an assembly of assemblies of atoms, because it's an assembly of, other things that are not elements. Those things are assemblies of elements, I think. It might be even another level below that. But atoms and hadrons are like a family and organisms, because an atom is a family of hadrons. It's a marriage between a proton and a neutron. And a family is an assembly of organisms that is a marriage between a male and a female, a man and a woman. A proton is a male and a neutron is a female, but it's not a man and woman. It's a proton and a neutron. So gender is manifested on every single scale. So it's just a fact. It's not. That's why, gender isn't sex. Sex. Oh God, I said the word. But is. That's what I think got kicked me off yesterday. But it is a it's a manifestation of gender within the periodicity of growth. Okay? So gender is transcendent. It exists on every single scale. On the scale of hadrons, it exists as protons and neutrons. On atoms, I think it's like what's it called? Isotopes and not, I think. I wrote it down. I'm not an expert in every field. You can't be, but you have to dabble in every field if you're going to do translating of, the pattern that exists on every field. But I did figure this out. That's amazing. This is the biggest breakthrough that I have made regarding bot periodicity since I thought that bot periodicity was what I've been describing it as. That's confirmation. I'm sold on it. I've always said to people, I think bot periodicity is this. Now I know. The odds that is meaningless and it's, that doesn't exist, but the odds that would manifest there and be anything else other than what it is 0%. That's amazing. And this is the thing, though, that pisses people off. And I understand why it pisses people off. I have a very funny story to tell you about the Discord. Before this, I was on there. We were talking about intelligence and stuff and got into it. Of course, people were angry because I said that I've been working on AI and general intelligence for 5 years. And they didn't believe me. I don't know why. Like, why would somebody lie about that? But at the same time, I also get it. And if you're not a professor, it's hard to pick out who's lying and who's not, or who's really dedicated the time and who hasn't. But I called myself an expert on reptiles, and they did not believe me. And I was like, you could show me any snake or lizard that exists, and I will know what it is. And that was the funniest. I wish I had it recorded. Obviously I don't, but it was so funny. They just started posting for 30 minutes random reptiles from the internet, and they were very impressed by that. Or they were very, very annoyed, but because they realized that I'm not BSing. I don't know everything. I suck at music. I couldn't tell you the difference between tempo and rhythm and harmony, and I couldn't tell you the difference between any of those things, and I've looked them up many times at this point. One day I will crack the musical puzzle, and I know that music is probably the most universal language that exists. It's just math specifically woven in a way so as to manifest feelings, which is the definition of a sentience, is to feel. So it's probably more objective than even mathematics. Maybe even it's probably exactly in alignment with metamathematics, which is what I'm doing. But thinking about it as a performance that's meant to look good or sound good is not a way in which my mind makes sense of the world. It's like I've explained here before. This is the power of perspective, is that I'm so good at martial arts, I'm a natural. I've studied for 20 years, and I'm definitely a natural martial artist with every weapon that you could imagine, every martial art that you could imagine. There's never been an art that I've practiced that I haven't been intrinsically good at. I'm not an expert. I'm not professional, but I am just, talented naturally. I suck at dancing so bad. I have no rhythm, and I have great rhythm in fighting. But then one day I realized that there are the exact same moves. We even say, let's dance when we're talking about fighting. And that just shows us that it's not about physical abilities, it's about your perspective on something. So if I'm thinking about dancing as an instance where I'm being paid attention to and I want to look good, I suck, because that's what I'm thinking about. Whereas in fighting, I think about winning and I look good, even because I'm not trying to. When I was in martial arts class, there would be kids that would come in who would watch, a lot of anime or, martial arts movies and stuff like that. And they wanted to do martial arts because they thought it was cool instead of them being interested in combat. And they always looked the same way that I looked when I was dancing. They have no rhythm. They're not naturally talented at it. But I bet you they'd be good dancers. And that's just a fascinating revelation, is that it's all about perspective. And so I do know what I suck at. One of them is music and dancing and, things that are performative. But I do know also what I know. And it's very frustrating, though, when you start dabbling in a theory of everything, or theory of Every0ne more accurately, because now what you're able to do is you're able to transcend the fields, aka Babylon, okay, splitting up of languages, the dividing of existence arbitrarily, which is what we did. Biology has its own language, and mathematics has its own language, and physics has its own language. But what if the pattern that persists throughout them all is consistent? And it is. So, when you understand that pattern, which almost no one has truly described pretty accurately, probably Chris Langan, Eric Weinstein seems to be pretty close to it. Stephen Wolfram's on the trail, and the prophets, I guess you could say. Outside of that, I don't really know anybody besides me. No, I mean that. I mean, there are other people that have been able to describe kind of a lot of aspects of this pattern, that it's about consciousness and that there's, anons and their little consciousnesses within a greater consciousness. And people have described the pattern, but not modeled it as simply as and as concisely, I think, as I have, and as totally. But and I don't mean that, obviously to be braggadocious, but you can't say that without sounding braggadocious. But the thing is that this is the problem, and I said this to Eric Weinstein once, is that when you understand this pattern, it gives you the ability to make predictions across fields. And you could make a prediction about a structure within a field that you don't have a degree in, and that somebody who does have a PhD in that field would never have seen. Somebody asked Eric on a call, why are people so hostile to your theory? Or I asked, or somebody asked, I don't know who asked, and then somebody was just like, well, because, they just want to be first. And basically saying that there's an aspect of jealousy there. That's not really true, though. A biologist who's never done any work on this, trying to figure out the theory of everything, they just trying to understand, the limited framework that they've framed existence in, or the framework that they've framed existence in. That person isn't jealous of Eric Weinstein. But what does bring resentment is when Eric can say something about biological structure that person who's biologist didn't see there. And this is something that I just saw with Bott periodicity. And that's why I'm getting at this. It's not just me talking about nonsense. I just made a discovery about Bott periodicity that no one in mathematics could tell you. And I know that. I think Eric might know what this pertains to, based on what he said to me once, but he didn't answer me, so I can't tell you that he knows. But I can certainly tell you that I know now, because the odds that right here, this pattern corresponds perfectly to the patterns here that I described of being within as opposed to next to, or being within the context of space as opposed to time. So a cell is inside of an organism. You can't see your cells, it's just within you. But an organism and a family, which is an assembly of organisms, they are on the same plane. Okay, you can look around and see every aspect of a family around you. Now, you can't see the lineage aspect of it that is maneuvering through time, and that's true. But you can see, the spatial aspect. You can see every single singularity within, or the multiplicity that makes up a family. So, a father and a mother, basically, that is the family structure, and a child, that's it. Or a parent and a child, they're next to each other. They're not within each other. They're next to each other. You can look around next to you and see your parent. You can't look next to you and see your cells. They're inside you. That means that there is a change happening from here to here. Same thing here. Molecule within the lineage of periodicity is DNA. Okay? Most, objectively. Now it's a superposition. It's many different molecules, but really that's the one. And that one is different, or wait, no, I put this in the wrong spot. That's why I was confused. Right here. There is a change happening, though, from here to here. Because a DNA molecule, DNA, is a molecule composed of two polynucleotide chains that coil around each other to form a double helix carrying genetic instructions. Okay? This is the molecule of the logos. And it's made of phosphate groups, sugar groups, and one of 4 types of nitrogen bases. None of these are just plain old elements, really. Okay? It's not like a water molecule where it's just made of, 2 hydrogens and an oxygen. Or wait, what is that? 2 oxygens and a hydrogen? I don't even know. I failed chemistry. But I can tell you things about chemistry because of this work, but not because I'm so good at chemistry. Yeah, it's 1 oxygen and 2 hydrogen. Just double checking. But I'm not, very good at chemistry. It's like it's the periodicity that I know the least is right here. I know cells better. I was a biology major. I know organisms. Study with zoologists all the time. Families. I mean, come on, guys. We all understand that structure. Castes, we all understand that structure. And especially me from politics, I understand that structure. And then AI was what I was trying to figure out. So, technological intelligence. And this is, physics, which I've been spending the last 3 years really diving into. So I do understand it. But there isn't a change happening from here to here, because this structure, a hadron and an atom, is the marriage, or the family, of organisms, which would be the mother and father in a nuclear family. And right here, an atom is the mother and father together, which is a proton and a neutron. Neutron being the female and proton being the male. And that's provable because atoms follow the same bonding patterns. Nucleuses of atoms follow the same bonding patterns of human marriages. You're never going to find an isotope where there's more protons than neutrons. If there is, multiples of one, and both of them are existing in the same element or isotope. I'm never going to find it. I looked, and I predicted that based on understanding this structure. And that's what I'm talking about making predictions across fields. I was able to see Bott periodicity. And now this is proof. This is proof. I need to figure out a way to best word it, but when hadrons look around, when protons and neutrons look around, they see each other, and together they are the nucleus, which is the atom itself, being bound by the sexual energy, which is, or creative energy, which is the electron cloud or electron wave. Hopefully I didn't get kicked off for saying that. No, it looks good. Okay. But here, you're going to see a shift. Because the DNA molecule, that is the objective molecule of logos, is not one in which it is an assembly of atoms. It is one in which it is an assembly of atoms. So you don't see, it's like you yourself, you can look at yourself and see organs, which are assemblies of cells, different types of cells, muscle cells, bones have their own types of cells. There's all kinds of cells. But you don't just see cells, but you do see organs. This is basically what this Z2, 0, Z2, 000 Z2 structure is it's describing whether or not you are basically spatially within the preceding or succeeding periodicity. So you're going to see a shift in color between two when there is a shift in perspective between the two. In order to see, when you require a shift in perspective between the two in order to see both, you cannot just see your cells. You would be required to really go down on a different level and within yourself on a different level. That's not true of organisms and families within castes or hadrons within atoms. But it is true of atoms within DNA. It is true of DNA within cells. When a cell looks around, it doesn't just see DNA. It sees organelles and the various parts of itself, a cell. It sees its organs, essentially, just like we do. And those organs are, partially, at least, parts of a cell consisting of DNA. So you could say parts of cell DNA. DNA located in the nucleus, made up of nucleotides that contain these bases. Okay, obviously, it's 4. But it sees a nucleus, but it doesn't see DNA. Just like you see organs, but you don't see a cell. But you can see family. You can see caste. These are not on different levels. They are on the same plane. These two are on the same plane. These two are not. These two are not. These two are not. Because technological singularity doesn't really perceive castes next to itself because it's existing in cyberspace and castes do not. Okay? Does that make some sense? That's so remarkable, and I'm gonna try and explain this to the person who's the math PhD who I'm meeting with after this at 10, and I wonder what he's gonna think of this. Probably, maybe something. I'm gonna bet nothing. He's gonna think I'm wrong and crazy and attributing patterns where there isn't. By the way, you can't pick out patterns where there isn't patterns. Now, it's just whether or not you are correctly interpreting the meaning of those patterns. But there is a meaning to those patterns. It's just whether or not your interpretation of that meaning is correct. This is too complicated and too perfect simultaneously to be correct and also, not being interpreted correctly, or to be visible and not being interpreted correctly. I mean, I never thought I would be really wrong about what Bott periodicity was, but I really didn't think I would ever have like something where I could prove it to myself, at least, that it is what I think it is. I was kind of just hoping one day to be told by, Eric Weinstein or Stephen Wolfram or some other mathematician that I was correct. And that's why I've brought it up with them before and have not gotten an answer. I mean, I got an answer that basically was close to what I would have expected, but it wasn't overt. This is overt. If I say, well, there's 8 periods of 8 loop spaces in Bott periodicity, and there's 8 periods of growth in which are basically forming loops in the logos of the material logos. It's like people would be like, well, you're kind of reaching. It's like, I'm not really reaching, but I also understand why, that's not so clear cut. If this was just alternating between if this was really like this, green, 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 and green. And I thought it would be like this so many times, and it just didn't work. If this was what we saw, it's possible that I'm right, and it's also possible that this pattern is just a common pattern of alternation, because that is a pattern that exists. But this 2, 1, 1, 3, 1 pattern that seems like almost arbitrary, and I don't understand it, like why it manifests like that yet. I will. The fact that that lines up perfectly with this, and the relationships that are manifest in this structure, is a home run. It means that this right here is Bott periodicity. I didn't do this because I wasn't confident enough in order to do that. But I believe in giving people their due. Like, if Raoul Bott came up with this and it's accurate to this, and we discover that, which I think I just did, that it is this, like, he deserves credit. He does. I have not called it that. I said I think it's Bott periodicity. I think it lines up as it aligns with Bott periodicity. Guys, this is the proof that I needed. It's been like I don't even know, at least a year that I've been trying to figure out more about that. But you read this stuff. It's like, describes the periodicity in homotopy groups of classical groups. Just, like foundations of significant amount of further research, particularly in K-theory, stable complex vector bundles. Like, this is stuff that it's so much language that I don't know, and that requires so much contextualization that is, in and of itself, almost certainly going to be contextualized, probably kind of incorrectly, in a subjective context that is not really useful to me, because I want an objective context. So that's why I don't really look into the rules and everything of subjective mathematics, which is current state of mathematics. I try and logically deduce the rules of objective mathematics or metamathematics. And it works. Because look at that. Holy crap. I'm stoked. I have not made a significant discovery like that ever on stream. It's probably the most significant discovery that I've made in I don't even know how long. I make little discoveries all the time. But this isn't this is a hint, not really a discovery. It does appear to be correct, but saying something like, well, that's just super literal manifestation of 4 and 4 here in bot periodicity. It's like, good luck making people see that that's even probabilistically, impressive. It's almost like, I mean, it is, but it's also like they don't understand the context that you're looking at it through as being objective. They could argue that it's subjective. You can't argue that here. It's just obvious. And it's weird that it works perfectly and it follows this weird pattern that it's like, who would choose that? God, obviously. But most people would choose this. And this is how I've tried to understand bot periodicity, and it never works. I've tried for over a year. I'm like, okay, so let's find an alternating pattern in bot periodicity. This one, and I always start with, families maneuvering in time. So an organism's maneuvering in space. So a cell is somehow maneuvering in time, and a molecule is somehow maneuvering in space. And then at this level, though, you can't really understand what's maneuvering in time and space. And I kind of just realized I didn't have enough objective understanding in order to make any definitive claims about this, or even solid claims, or even confident claims. This is beyond confident and solid. I'm confident saying that this is bot periodicity. I was calling it, it is the cosmological verse, or Goldstein verse, as I've called it, or which is like a Penroseon. I think it should just be called a verse. But that verse follows bot periodicity. Dope. So dope. I wonder what that math guy's going to think about that. And I wonder who was listening tonight, because it just seems to be a weird, night for viewership. It's like, it's gone up a lot, then it goes down, then I look at it, then it goes up. It's very strange. And normally there's tons of people talking in the chat, but there's nobody. But what's up, Josh? There's one person. Hit the like button if you are here. It helps with the algorithm. Like I said, go to my website and sign up for my email list before they kick me off into oblivion. And then it's difficult to find this work in this project. But this was an awesome stream. I was not expecting it to be. I was like, this is going to be a working session. And it was a working session. But not only was it a working session, it was a session of discovery. Oh, cool. What's up, Phantom? And by the way, I don't mind if people are listening or not. I don't normally listen to people live who I listen to. Normally go back and listen to it later. But it just was odd. And it always makes me worry that I'm being throttled or, shadow banned or whatever it's called. But this was sick. I'm a little bit beyond words about it. So dope. But see, now I have to go tell the PhD in mathematics that I understand something about bot periodicity that he won't understand. He would not have come. This is not known. Maybe it's owned by Eric Weinstein. He said some things that made me think that that's possible. But other than that, this is not known to be bot periodicity. It's not. But it is bot periodicity. Now, I think that's more than enough to confirm the pattern that I found tonight. Is more than enough to confirm that that's true. It's one of the most obvious confirmations I've seen in this work. But when imagine this is why this is so difficult to collaborate with people on stuff, because when you go to people who have PhDs in mathematics or in biology or in physics or something like that, and you want to discuss things with them, they don't usually like it very much, even though I wish they did, because there's plenty of things I'm sure they could teach me. And that's why I go to them. I don't go to them to teach them. I come here to, show my work and teach whoever wants to listen, but I don't go to people in order to teach them. I go to people in order to have them teach me. And I let people who want to learn come to me. I think that's the way that we should, do things. It's really the only way I think that you really do learn is when you seek something yourself. Otherwise, you memorize things out of context, and that isn't really learning. It's just memorizing recipe. So, anyways, does anybody have any questions? Does this make some sense? Let me know in the chat. And if there's not too many questions, I think I'm going to call it a bit earlier tonight, probably around 9, which is in about like 15 minutes. And just kind of go over this work a bit more. Like, I have a lot of stuff to do tonight too, so I can't be on super late. But I want to kind of prepare this, describing this to that guy who I'm meeting with at 10. What an awesome discovery. Sick. That's so cool. I mean, it's when you say like, well, there's 8 parts to E8 and that therefore bot periodicity is E8, and it is E8. Like, people will be like, well, that's just, you're just looking at 8 here and 8 there, and you're basically saying that because 8 is here and 8 is there, they're the same. Yep. It's not about that, though. It's that within objectivity, numbers have intrinsic meaning and manifest for the same reasons in every single instance that they manifest. It's like, why is E8 considered the most beautiful mathematical structure of existence? And I would argue that it is my cosmological verse, which is an 8-period, structure. And also, when you look at things like arachnids and mollusks that are not just mollusks, but like octo squid, cuttlefish. What are these called again? Cephalopods. When you look at cephalopods and arachnids, it's like, why, and the maximum number of electrons that you can have on the outermost ring of an atom. It's like, why is it always 8? Because it's 4 primary perspectives looking inside out and outside in at the exact same time. It's us understanding existence from the inside out via inside, outside, separate, and oneness, which are the 4 primary perspectives of orienting yourself within a structure, a lineage structure to be more accurate. And then it's existence looking from the outside in at us via inside, outside, separate, and oneness. And when those 4 by 4 cross, it's 8. And it's the same reason that the Great Pyramid has 4 sides, but then when you look at it from the top down, it's 8-sided. It's not 4-sided. But it's like hidden. And it's the same reason why here, when you look at my model of the cosmological verse, and you go to the very center, you realize that the center, which is right here, consists of a count of 4 You can't get more centered. It's always just 4. This is 1. It's not that this is 1. This is 1. Okay? If you're going to be symmetrical and you're going to get to the perfect center. But what's interesting about this is that when you look at it and you're looking at it in a non-calculative model, which is, I mean, in a calculative model, sum is 15, but, and I've heard physicists say things like that about existence. I think Eric Weinstein said that once to Roger Penrose in a podcast. He was like, the sum of the dimensions is 15. I don't know what he was talking about, but it's probably that. But when you look at a non-calculative model, which is this one, and you look at the center, which is still a count of 4, but what's the sum? 8. 1, 2, 2, 3. 3 plus 1 is 4, and 2 plus 2 is 4, which is the 4 primary perspectives that form a single sentience. Inside, outside, separate, and oneness. This is inside, this is outside, this is separate, this is oneness. Or you could do, this is separate, this is oneness, this is inside, this is outside. It doesn't really matter, I don't think. I mean, I think it does. I think this is separate and oneness, and this is outside, and this is inside. I think. I have to really think about it. It's difficult. I mean, I can look at it corresponding to the model, but so if it's, 1, it's really this 1, and then 2, and 2, and then 3, which is inside. So this is inside. Interesting that 1 is oneness without, which is oneness outside. Okay? And this is inside. So it is still symmetrical and separate and separateness, basically. But you could do basically like I think this would be it. Inside, outside, separate. That would be like the 4 primary perspectives manifest right there. Yeah, that's it. But you can see it. It's a count of 4, sum of 8. It's 2 4x4 structures right here, 1 here, 1 here, and they are overlapping each other, but not in the way that this is right here, but here, if you're going to look at it the way that we look at it when we are looking at the number 8, it's basically that this is equal to this plus this. 2, 2, 2, and 2, and then oh man, screwed that up. Whoa. There, 8. Because 8 is the sum of those, and this one is the sum of those two. And this one is the sum of these two. This one is the sum of these two, and this one is the sum of these two. Instead of here where you're just like 6, which is subjective, internal, experience between two versus of two. So this is about experience, and this, where 6 manifests, it's about experience. Where 8 manifests, it's about existence. It's not about experience, it's about existence. It's different. It's like 8 exists because 4 exists twice, but that doesn't mean that experience is interacting in a way that is, perfectly 8. Or observed as 8. It's observed as 6. That's why Snowflake is a pattern of hexagons, and so is, beehives and all kinds of stuff. I've become a little bit obsessed with beehives. I want to get an observation hive when we move into a house. I think I'm going to learn so much about the theory of everything by having a beehive with a glass wall where I can see the bees, like, being their eusocial selves. It's going to be pretty awesome. But anyways, I think I'm going to call it. I appreciate everybody being here. Thank you for the likes. Please, share this with anybody who you think may be interested. Also, if any of you is ever interested in making a clip where you saw something that you liked, but these streams are normally very long. This is like one of the shortest streams I think I've ever done. But you want to just cut something and put it up, as long as you credit and tag me and you don't alter the context and like take things out of context, I am always happy with that. So, that would be awesome. I've been trying to do that a little bit, but it's so much work. Like, eventually we're going to have a Theory of Every0ne clips channel that will be very helpful to people who don't want to sit through 3.5 hour, 4.5 hour long streams. But, which I get. Those for the diehards. But anyways, like I said, guys, I really appreciate it. For those of you who were here, you witnessed a huge breakthrough in my work, whether you understood it or not. But I'll talk about it for the rest of the week, I'm sure, because this is just awesome. But anyways, like I said, sign up for my email list if you'd like to support the work monetarily. There is a Patreon in the link below. Sign up or follow me on as many social media platforms as possible, because they are going to try and kick us off. And if you'd like to join our Discord conversations, which happen usually every Thursday evening at like 6:40, 7 p.m. till like, they've gone till like 3 a.m., 4 a.m. I think even. Send me a private message on Instagram and I will send you a link. Those conversations are live. They're voice conversations. And they're open, and we can discuss anything that anybody wants to. We usually tend to get into topics that YouTube would, be angry with me over. So those are great conversations, though. So I will see you all tomorrow. Like I said, thanks again for being here. Peace.